Days at the United Nations General Assembly will no doubt top headlines as world leaders there make agreements on finding ways to better the situation for people all across the globe, not in terms only of climate change, but in terms of health, in terms of global conflicts. And on AIDS, hopefully, as well. World leaders can choose the path that ends AIDS. That is according to Executive Director of UNAIDS, Winnie Byanyima, who is also a United Nations Under-Secretary General. Byanyima says strong political leadership and sustainable funding could put countries on the right path to ending AIDS. She says this could be possible by the year 2030. Byanyima is going to address world leaders in New York as they have gathered for this year's 78th United Nations General Assembly. She joins us via Zoom from New York in the United States. Thank you so much, Winnie, for speaking to us this evening, taking the time out of what no doubt is a very busy schedule at the UN General Assembly. I was a bit shocked to read this. The AIDS pandemic continues to take a life every minute. And that's despite huge progress made in treatment and prevention. How would you characterize global leadership around AIDS in the last decade?
Thank you for having me. And that's a good question, because 25 years ago, the whole world came together. And that was at the height of the HIV pandemic. And they said, we're going to fight this and end it together. And every 5 years, they come together. They renew their commitments, they set new targets. Some who have money put the money down. Others who have a challenge fight on with the support of others. And along the way, antiretrovirals were found, where it took people, a movement born in South Africa, actually, the Treatment Action Campaign, to fight. And with the support of President Mandela, President Bush, Clinton, crisis started to come down by getting companies to share their technology and generics to be made. That is how we've gotten here. Today, I could say that global solidarity, that led to the formation of my organization, UNAIDS, is what has brought us here. Political will by the whole world. We have reduced new infections from that time at the highest peak of 1995 by almost 60%. We've reduced deaths globally from the peak of 2004 by 70%, 30 million people on treatment. All this happened because countries stood together, fought together, shared technology, shared finances, and here we are. But it's not over. There are 9.2 million people living with HIV, not yet on treatment. South Africa is a country with the highest number of people living with HIV in the world, but it's also one making fastest progress. You have 5.7 million people on treatment, paid for largely by your government. Great achievement. But what I was saying is that it's possible to reach a point where new infections don't lead to any deaths, and new infections are so few that we are not having a growing epidemic. That's what we mean, getting to the end of AIDS as a public health threat. It's possible because, look, there are 5 countries. Eswatini, that small country in the middle of South Africa, Botswana, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, who have already hit the targets that the world set for 2025, meaning that they are on course to get to the point we say we've controlled AIDS by 2030. There are 16 other countries close to that, including South Africa. So the world can get there, but that path to get there has to be followed. And we know what path it is, but we need the political will to get on that path for all countries.
What is holding leaders back from committing 100% unequivocally to that path and marching straight down it?
There's several things. One, of course, the world is hit by many crises right now. there's a climate calamity. There is the cost of living that has come out of circumstances such as the war in Ukraine, high energy costs, high cost of living. There is war, conflict is draining resources. There are many issues, and HIV is becoming hidden beneath so many other issues. But there is danger in that, as I said. For HIV to drop, for world leaders to drop the ball on HIV just when we could end it, doesn't even mean that it will stay where it is. When an epidemic is not ended, it regresses, it resurges. We could see resurgence if the momentum is not maintained. But also, fighting AIDS is actually a way to prevent future pandemics. You remember COVID and how it ravaged the world, took lives. The strength you had in South Africa to fight COVID came primarily from the capacity you had built to fight HIV/AIDS. The same people with the same knowledge on surveillance. South Africa, you're one of the first countries. You were the first country to isolate that deadly version of COVID. Remember? It was called, God, forget it. Never mind. But
there were so many strains, you'd be forgiven for forgetting all of them.
Isolating a variant that was killing people was done in South Africa. South Africa was the first to hit that Omicron variant. So you see that all that capacity didn't come from nowhere. It was from fighting HIV. So we say, fight the finish line because you also build capacity to prevent future pandemics. Also, everything you do to fight HIV also contributes to other SDGs. Take South Africa. Girls and young women are the most at risk. 3 out of every 4 young people getting newly infected between the age of 12 and 25 is a girl. 3 out of 4. The first way to keep girls safe from infection is to keep them in school until the end of secondary school. That is the first and most important measure, plus others like challenging sexual violence and many other things. But if you put kids in school, girls in school, you don't only reduce HIV risk, you reduce teenage pregnancy, you reduce early marriage, you reduce sexual violence, you actually increase growth in the long term because those girls will become empowered women building the economy. So you achieve many other SDGs by fighting HIV. So we say, this is not the time to drop the ball. Invest because that investment cuts across many SDGs and yields huge returns for people and the economy.
Before I let you go, where are we in finding a vaccine for HIV/AIDS?
I cannot say, but something we learned. When the world was hit by COVID, governments, rich country governments with the resources, put money together, billions, and within less than a year, a vaccine was found. That vaccine, the first one found, was very much based on the research that was done for HIV. So we believe that the possibility of finding a vaccine is there, but sadly, we do not see one in sight in the medium term, not yet. But let that not discourage us, because even without a vaccine and without a cure, the tools that we have in between for prevention, testing, and treatment, we have such a wide variety that work for every kind of person in every kind of situation. We can beat AIDS with what we have. We will continue pushing for more research, pushing for prices of what is innovative to come down and reach everybody. but we're confident we can reach the end even with what we have.
Thank you so much. Good luck for your address to world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly. That was the Executive Director of UNAIDS and United Nations Under Secretary General Winnie Byanyima. Right, we'll bring you more news.